In the beginning was the Bird.
Steve Van Buren blasts off right tackle for the game-winning touchdown. And the Philadelphia Eagles become the 1948 World Champions by a score of 7-0.
Gifford swings out of the backfield, down and in. They're dangerous.
This 1960 team, it was just a strange, unique group of guys that suddenly decided that the most important thing in the world to them was to win a championship.
The Eagles are the champions of the world. Pazorczyk can just fall on the football, and Pazorczyk fumbles the football. It's picked up by Herbert Edwards. I don't believe it.
To this day, people refer to that play, the Miracle of Meadowlands. It's not over until it's over.
Dallas, we hate you.
Dick Vermeil, he kept stressing to us, we're going to beat the Dallas Cowboys, and sure enough, it happened.
I am emotionally burnt out. I hope very much my players can understand. It's not an easy thing to do, to say goodbye to them.
The fog. I have never seen anything like it. Unreal. I'm wondering what happened. You can't see the field.
Buddy used to say, go out there and make 6 big plays, and Randall would make 6 huge plays.
Slaps at the 10, but throws the ball.
He was the ultimate weapon.
Let's go, Jay! Come on, Reggie!
Reggie White pulled the ball away and took off for a touchdown.
All we got to do is stay together and keep fighting.
Here we go, 4th down. They give it to Smith and they stop him again! They stop him again!
It's time to unleash the dogs of war. Go forth into battle and claim your prize.
That was a long play. That was Demolition Derby. That is a play that only McNabb can make.
He's going! He's gone!
4th and 26.
And it is caught by Freddie Mitchell. Your heart's as big as my waist. You guys are the best.
Few things in nature are as fearsome as the cry of the mighty eagle. And few teams in sports are as beloved as the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly has always been a football town, but in the early 1930s, the pro game faced stiff competition.
Philadelphia was a football town in the 30s, but it was a college football town. It wasn't a pro football town. Villanova was big. They were playing big-time football. Temple University was big-time football. In fact, they wound up going to a Sugar Bowl. They were coached by Pop Warner. University of Pennsylvania was very, very big.
Penn football used to average 70,000 people every Saturday. They were then playing a schedule of Notre Dame, Ohio State, Southern California, Michigan. Nobody believes that now.
Pro football at that time had all the legitimacy and consistency and prestige of a floating crap game. That's kind of what it was. Players moved from team to team. They were paid $25 or $50 a game. The idea of professional football just didn't seem to be big league. It was considered almost a sandlot sport. People didn't have much awareness of it.
The Frankfurt Yellow Jackets were the city's first pro football franchise, and they won an NFL title in 1926 under Hall of Fame player-coach Guy Chamberlain.
The Frankfurt Yellow Jackets had a very faithful following, and in 1926 they were the best team in pro football. The first pro football championship within the city limits was in Frankfurt.
The Yellow Jackets collapsed financially in 1931, victims of the Great Depression. In 1933, the rights to the team were purchased for $2,500 by a former University of Pennsylvania quarterback named Bert Bell, who renamed his new franchise.
He renamed it for 2 reasons. Number one, he thought that to call the team Frankfurt was too limited. He thought that Philadelphia had a grander sort of scope to it. And the other thing was he wanted to change the emblem, and he made it the Eagles in tribute to Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal policy. The symbol was the eagle.
Bell needed a coach for his fledgling Eagles, so he turned to partner and former Penn teammate Lud Ray.
It's funny when you read the stories leading up to the first game that the team played. Lud Ray was very optimistic. We're a first-year team, but we're going to surprise people. Well, they went out and they played their first game against the New York Giants and lost 56-0. Lud Ray had a quote in the paper the next day saying, "I don't think we're as far along as we thought."
Playing at the Baker Bowl, an old baseball stadium on Broad and 15th Streets, the Eagles went 3-5-1 that inaugural year, the first of 10 consecutive losing seasons.
There were a lot of opportunities in those 10 years for this team to just wither and blow away. It could have easily happened. To undertake launching this team, you had to have someone that was pretty strong-willed, and Bert Bell was all of that. He understood that pro football, presented properly to the people in Philadelphia, would work. He never gave up hope. It's really quite that simple. And through those early years and all the losses and all the lost money and all the half-empty or more empty stadiums, I mean, and he made it work. He and Lud Ray were the coaches. But more than that, they were the equipment managers, they were the trainers, they were the ticket takers, they were the ushers. If newspapers didn't send a reporter to cover an away game, Bert Bell wrote the story for them and sent it to the office. I mean, if you called the Eagles office, Bert Bell answered the phone because he couldn't hire a secretary. I mean, everything that had to be done to make the Eagles a viable approximation of a professional team, as we knew it in the 1930s, was done by Bert Bell.
In 1936, Bell moved the Eagles' home games to Municipal Stadium. Then in 1940 to Shibe Park. While the team continued to lose, it did welcome its first marquee player, quarterback Davy O'Brien, a former Heisman Trophy winner and one of the game's all-time great little men.
Here's Texas Christian's Mighty Mike, little Davy O'Brien, one of the greatest passers ever to enter the National League, breaking 3 records last year, and selected all-league quarterback for 1939. This is the wrist action that has made his passing a constant threat to opposing defensive players. He gets a lot of power into the throw by this action.
The 5'7" O'Brien played for only 2 seasons, saving his masterpiece performance for his final game. Against the powerful Washington Redskins, the tiny Eagle quarterback rewrote the NFL record book. O'Brien attempted 60 passes and completed 33, setting team records which lasted 4 years. But despite his Goliath-sized performance, little David and his team still lost 13-7. O'Brien's dramatic curtain call came just as a veil of darkness was descending upon the world. With the onset of World War II, most able-bodied men were drafted into the military. This created a manpower shortage on the playing fields of the NFL. The situation was so critical that in 1943, the NFL allowed the Steelers and Eagles to combine their franchises, creating one team the press playfully dubbed the Steagles.
The Steagles combined the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles. That's where the name Steagles came from. And in my opinion, when you put the 2 teams together, you had twice as many lousy football players on that Steagles team.
We had to practice in the evenings. We had a number of men who had wartime jobs, and as a result, we would practice with just one set of lights up at the old Shibe Park. Sometimes when you missed throwing the ball right, you blamed it on the lights.
Though they would last just 1 year, the Steagles finished with a 5-4-1 record. It was the Eagles' first ever winning season, and certainly one of the most bizarre chapters in team history.
Remember, we at home have to help win this war.
Following their 1 season as the Steagles, the Eagles took flight under future Hall of Fame coach Earl Greasy Neal. He was the architect of the first golden age of Eagle football and a perfect fit for the post-war NFL player.
A lot of these guys had just come back from the war. These were guys who were mature beyond their years. They weren't your typical guys coming out of college to play pro football. And Greasy Neal was smart enough to understand that. So there weren't a lot of silly rules about curfews and bed checks. Greasy felt like if these guys could stay alive for 4 years in a foxhole, I don't have to tuck them in at night. And the players respected that.
To run his new T formation, Neal called on quarterback Lourdes Tommy Thompson, who played brilliantly despite his significant handicap.
Tommy Thompson was blind in one eye as a result of a childhood accident growing up in Arkansas, and had gone through most of his career without ever telling anybody. The fact is, the way that he played, no one could really tell. And he was an ideal fit for Greasy Neal's T formation because he was a very, very good ball handler. He was very good at what today we'd call play-action passing, where he'd fake a handoff and throw the ball.
Thompson led the league in passing and tossed a team record 25 touchdown passes. He also allowed Neal to implement a new strategic weapon.
You look back at those Eagles teams, they were one of the first teams that you saw that on 2nd and 1, where they would fake a handoff and Tommy Thompson would throw a deep pass. And they scored a lot of points that way, because nobody was doing that back then.
Thompson's most frequent target was the Golden Greek, number 35, Pete Pihos.
Pete was a fullback in college, and he came to us, and Neal made an end out of him. Now, Greasy Neal knew how to pick talent. Being a fullback, a lot of plays were made especially for Pete because he was such a great runner after he got a hold of the football. We had a screen pass. It was a middle screen, but Pete would turn around with his back to the defense. And I would make a fake, and I'd throw to Pete and on a screen pass, and we got, I don't know how many yards we made on the same play.
Pihos led the league in receptions 3 times on his way to a Hall of Fame career. Still, his coach found room for criticism.
I'll never forget, Greasy told Pete, he says, Pete, you're catching the ball wrong. You're catching the ball this way instead of this way. But Pete says, I always catch it this way, Coach. He says, well, the first one you drop, you're going to switch to my way and do it right. He never dropped one, so he never switched.
While the Thompson to Pihos connection was a lock, the key to the Eagles' success was a Honduras-born halfback, number 15, Steve Van Buren.
He was an exceptional athlete. At 215 pounds, I've seen him run out at Franklin Field. On the track, I've seen him run 9.5, 9.6. He was a great blocker, great receiver, and he was also a real good defensive player. He was a rare athlete. He's a type of player that comes along maybe once every generation.
Up until today, there has never, ever been a better running back in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles like Steve Van Buren. I can't even think of a person close to a running back like Steve.
I think the greatest measure of Van Buren's true greatness is the fact that today, more than 50 years after his retirement, he still holds 9 team records, which is amazing when you think about it. I mean, a guy that played half a century ago in a 12-game season, and he's still putting up those kinds of numbers. If you look at his average, he averaged a lot of those years over 5 yards a carry. He led the league in rushing 4 times. One year in a 12-game season, he had 18 touchdowns, which still stands as the team record. He was a player, in a true sense, was ahead of his time. I mean, he was a running back of the modern game, playing back in the 40s, which made him almost impossible to defend.
Van Buren's power was complemented by the speed of scat-back Bosch Pritchard, number 30. With Pritchard and Van Buren in the backfield, the Eagles' fortunes quickly reversed. In 1947, they won the Eastern Division, and in 1948 hosted the NFL Championship at snow-swept Shibe Park, a game Van Buren almost missed.
Steve woke up and there was this blizzard, and he didn't think the game was going to be played, so he was at home. They finally called Steve and say, "Where are you?" He says, "You mean we're going to play?"
I had to catch 3 trolleys and walk about 6 blocks to the stadium. It was so much snow that at times I couldn't see their safety man from my halfback position.
Van Buren soon found that playing in the snow was far easier than commuting in it. He plowed through the snow and the Chicago Cardinals to score the game's only touchdown and lift the Eagles to their first NFL title.
With the championship riding on his shoulders, Steve Van Buren blasts off right tackle for the game-winning touchdown. And the Philadelphia Eagles become the 1948 World Champions by a score of 7-0.
1 year later, following an 11-1 regular season, Van Buren led the Eagles to a second consecutive championship. In a drenching Southern California rain, he ran for 196 yards versus the Rams, setting a championship game record that stood for nearly 40 years.
They forgot about me. In fact, they said they weren't worried about me anymore, but they were going to worry about the other halfback. They stopped him, but they didn't stop me.
2 touchdowns proved more than enough as the Birds overcame the Rams and the ankle-deep mud. The Eagles would post back-to-back shutouts in their 2 championship game victories, a feat that may never be equaled. The same could be said of their camaraderie.
The Eagles and the 48-49 team, everybody was happy. We were a family. There were no cliques. We didn't know what the other guy made. We didn't care. The money was not what we were playing for, because we loved it. We played for the love of the game.
I don't feel football owes me a penny. I had the greatest time of my life.
We had to buy these. It cost us $50, and most of the guys bought them because, you know, it's a nice thing to have. I was offered $2,000 by a memorabilia man, and I wouldn't sell this. I wouldn't sell it for the world.
They were the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, flesh and blood symbols of success in the boom years of post-war America. Coming off back-to-back championships, the Eagles entered 1950 as a dynasty in the making. But a .500 record that season would result in the firing of the man behind their success, head coach Greasy Neal.
You know, we won the championship. We were 10-2 or whatever. And the next year, we were 6-6. We lost 5 games by a total of like 14 points. And the so-called 100 brothers that owned the team, didn't know a damn thing about football, fired him. That was a disaster. I like that guy so much.
A career-ending injury to Steve Van Buren dealt a final blow to the Eagles' hopes of recapturing their championship glory. Though their trophy case remained empty, for the rest of the 50s, their roster was full of personality.
There were a lot of great individual stories in the 1950s. Adrian Burke only started for 3 seasons at quarterback, but in one game against the Washington Redskins, he threw 7 touchdown passes to set a league record. And then there was Norm Willie, who they called Wild Man Willie. No one was counting sacks back then. It was not an official stat. But if you look back, in a 12-game season, the Wild Man Willie was getting anywhere from 20 to 30 sacks. You know, there's a game at the Polo Grounds against the Giants, which is now pretty legendary. Newspaper accounts of that game tell you that Norm Willie tackled Charlie Connerly of the Giants 17 times while he was attempting to pass. That's in the public record. They weren't calling them that then, but they were sacks. Here's a guy that had 17 sacks in one game. I mean, today, 17 sacks for a season and you lead the league.
Here's Chuck Bednarik, Pennsylvania's All-American center. His exploits on the field are well known, and the Eagles are counting on him.
A war veteran who went on to star at Penn, Chuck Bednarik, hailed from the steel town of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where he received early lessons in toughness.
We were 6 kids and my mother and father in his house. I couldn't speak English until I was 6 years old and went to 1st grade. My parents couldn't do it. Look at here, there, you're on television.
No,
Tony Turobia, Asia.
No.
My mother was, maybe 5'2", 220. You know, typical hard-working, tough Slovak woman.
And I told him like that, don't hit him first. But if he hit you, anybody hit you first, give it to him. Give him a good one.
I kind of grew up in what you'd call a semi-violent world, no question about it. And this is what gave me that, like I always just say, animal instinct and killer instinct when I played a contact sport.
Somebody's out there to get you. And boy, you're going to defend yourself. And now you just turn killer. And of course, as the game progresses and in the heat of the battle, you're getting hit. And then suddenly all you think of is, it's that kill. Kill.
This is the way you go after him. You're frothing from the mouth. You say, get him. Get him.
One of the toughest players in one of football's toughest eras, Bednarik was known as Concrete Charlie, a nickname that ironically did not stem from his football career.
I met some guy at a party who worked for the Warner Concrete Company, and he was a sales manager, and asked me if I was interested in selling concrete. Well, I lasted 20 years selling ready-mix concrete, and that's how I got the nickname Concrete Charlie, which I like very much. I can't walk through the airport without people saying, how you doing, Chuck, or coming up to me. That makes me feel so happy and so proud. You know, money can't buy that kind of stuff. I appreciate those people coming up to me and saying, are you Chuck? Are you Chuck?
With 14 years as an Eagle, Bednarik stands as the longest tenured player in team history. One of his teammates from the 50s, Frank Bucko Kilroy, holds another distinction. He just may be the dirtiest bird of all time.
For a so-called teammate, Bucko Kilroy was the dirtiest football player I ever saw. I'm playing offensive center, and he's lined up in front of me. He hit me with such an illegal shot in my face, I wanted to kill him. And I hated him ever since. I don't talk about people like this generally. He's the only person I talk about. And if he ever watches this show, Bucko, you were a dirty football player. That's all I got to say about you.
He would sort of go, heh, 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 and laugh about it.
Oh, he had really a fiendish laugh. He was a fiendish guy.
I saw him kick Charlie Trippi off the field one day. When he could have tackled him or pushed him out, he took his right foot and kicked him.
So I took my helmet off and started beating him on the head with it. And of course, then the police came.
We used to do things like that. You couldn't do things like that today.
Once against Cleveland, he intercepted a pass. Guys came off the bench to get a shot at Bucko. They'd always wanted one shot at him, you know. And there were like 20 guys chasing him down the field, taking shots at him while he ran the ball. You know what? They could barely get him down. It took him, they had torn his shirt off and his helmet and everything, but he was chugging away.
Another colorful character was flanker Tommy McDonald, a little man who lived large.
He was a wild man, and everybody thought that he was always inebriated, never take a drink, and he never had a cold beer or anything. He was a guy who probably could catch the ball better than anybody I ever threw to, as far as just sheer hands of catching the ball if he could touch it. Anything that he could touch, he would catch. You could throw it in a crowd and he would go get it.
Any ball that came near me, I wanted to be like a vacuum cleaner. I mean, it was mine. You know, I turned me on.
McDonald holds the distinction of being the last NFL player to play without a face mask. He led the NFL in touchdown catches twice and went to the Pro Bowl 6 times. No Eagle player has worn his enthusiasm on his sleeve as openly as McDonald, a spirit he's carried to every team reunion. And his own Hall of Fame induction.
Philadelphia Eagles, go!
McDonald has remained grateful to those who helped him achieve his stardom, especially quarterback Norm Van Brocklin.
Without old number 11, I don't know what Tommy McDonald could have ever have been.
Van Brocklin came to the team in 1958, a season of change for the franchise.
58 is really, I think, the pivotal year in the Eagles' history. Maybe most important of all was they make the trade with the Los Angeles Rams that brings in Norm Van Brocklin.
I'd like you all to meet this two-time passing champion of the National League, Norman Van Brocklin.
And in Van Brocklin, they had a veteran quarterback that had won championships, the Los Angeles Rams, and could give the team the kind of veteran leadership it really needed.
Van Brocklin, and I want you to hear this real good, he overthrew me one time, and I played with him for 3 years. You talk about precision. That is like a machine.
The great Eagle passer, Norm Van Brocklin, has something cooking. It's a gone goose to Tommy McDonald for 33 yards and the touchdown.
Van Brocklin, we will have to remember, had come from Los Angeles where you had Elroy Hirsch and Tom Fears as receivers. So all of a sudden we had a veteran quarterback that had worked with the greatest receivers that the league had known to that point, and we got the benefit of all of that tutelage. It was like going to graduate school without having to take the basics.
Van Brocklin's got it. Van Brocklin's going to throw. He throws into the corner. Oh, and touchdown! And who do you think caught the ball? Mr. Pistol Pete Rutschlau.
Other changes in 58 included the hiring of head coach Buck Shaw and a move to the heart of the city.
They leave Connie Mack Stadium and move to Franklin Field. They leave a stadium with a 35,000 seat capacity to a stadium with a 66,000 seat capacity. A great football stadium with great sight lines and a lot of tradition.
Franklin Field moved us uptown. We became socially acceptable, and people could go to the Eagles games that went to Pennsylvania games. And there was something about the campus that drew people in there that maybe they hadn't had a chance to go to college, or you know what I mean? And I always thought it was a cultural experience to go there. And the sound in the building was probably better than the Academy of Music. A guy in the upper deck would yell, "Brookshire, you're a bum," and you could look right up and see the guy and say, "I'll see you after the game," you know.
Franklin Field also held some peculiar home field advantages.
This brick wall right here, I'm going to try and get them to take it down and give it to me. And of course my wife won't want it in the living room or anything like that. But I would scratch my hands against the concrete here, and I would try and make them, get them very sensitive, because on a cold day, let me tell you, it really helps.
By 1959, former Eagle founder Bert Bell was NFL commissioner. While watching a game at Franklin Field between the Eagles and Steelers, two teams he once owned, Bell suffered a massive heart attack.
I just scored a touchdown over here. I spun around and I looked back, and everybody on the bench and stuff was running like toward that other end of the stadium, and I'm thinking, hey, the touchdown happened over here, you know.
And I went over the wall. It was only like a 6-foot jump, and I ran around. And by the time I had gotten around to the stretcher, he was just about gone.
But he died right where he started. And if you were doing a movie and put that kind of ending on it, you go, oh, this is fake. But this is just how it happened. He died right where he started as a young quarterback at the University of Pennsylvania, and both teams, the Eagles and the Steelers, he owned them both.
Going into the 1960 season, the Eagles were not exactly brimming with confidence.
We were okay. We were an okay team, but an okay team went to the top.
There was some player that said that the 1960 Eagles were the worst championship team that ever won a championship.
The 1960 football season was like a genie that came out of a bottle in City Hall courtyard. And for 1 year, it granted Philadelphia's football fans their every wish. It was only 1 year, but for 1 year, everything they wished for came true. It's almost that hard to explain in logical terms. They started the year at home against the Browns and got absolutely demolished. I mean, the Browns beat them 41-24, and it wasn't even that close. And then the next week they go down to Dallas and play the Cowboys, who were then an expansion team. And that was a terrible Cowboy team who'd wound up not winning a game the entire season. And the Eagles only won it by 2 points, and the only reason they won it was because they blocked 2 PATs. So when they come back home for week 3, there's nobody really thinks that this team's going anywhere.
The following week, the Eagles came from behind in the final quarter to beat the Cardinals, one of 6 fourth-quarter comebacks on the season. All of them led by the man they called Dutch, Norm Van Brocklin.
Van Brocklin was like Houdini. He could pull magic out of his helmet. You talk about a Cinderella. We were always behind at halftime, and Van Brocklin would pull it out. We would bite, scratch, kick, gouge, anything we could do to win a game. It just seemed like we had a guardian angel over us or something like that.
If ever a single player lifted a team that was average into winning a championship, it was him. And he did it by the sheer force of his personality, his will, and his skill. And he was already well into his 30s when that happened. He was almost literally a coach on the field as well as a player.
The game that really turned their season around was the rematch with the Browns in Cleveland. That was a game that Van Brocklin refused to lose. They fell behind and then began to rally in the second half.
Strike. Van Brocklin's pass travels 59 yards in the air, and Tommy McDonald is under it to land in the end zone for the TD. The score is a tense 22-21.
And it was really the leadership and the tenacity of Van Brocklin that pulled that team through. And his will became that team's will.
Van Brocklin executes a nice fake, then flips to Billy Barnes, and the big halfback has it for the score.
And you saw it in the fourth quarter.
The Eagles are fighting both the Browns and the clock now. Van Brocklin gets them off and flying from their 10 with a pass to Pete Retzlaff, good for 27 yards.
And they came back, and at the end of the game, with just seconds to go, they have Bobby Walston lining up to kick a 38-yard field goal. Now, Bobby Walston was a good kicker, but 38 yards was way beyond Bobby's range. And he's kicking in Cleveland, into the open end of the stadium, into the wind. You think there's no way.
In a heart-stopping finish, Bobby Walston boots a 38-yard field goal that barely clears the bar with 16 seconds left in the game, and the Eagles win.
Somehow, it went through the uprights.
It's a big victory for the Birds in one of the greatest battles in the National Football League since the 1958 championship game. The Eagles triumphed 31-29 to stay in the thick of the Eastern Conference championship race.
I really think that game, that win in Cleveland, in addition to launching the Eagles towards the championship, which it clearly did, put Philadelphia over the moon in terms of pro football. That was the game that just set off the pro football explosion in the city. It's almost a clear demarcation point in the Eagles' history. The week before that game, the Eagles played a very good Detroit Lions team at Franklin Field and drew 38,000 people.
38,000 fans are on hand to see if the Eagles can stay in contention with the Browns and Giants.
They go to Cleveland and they win this miraculous game. The next Sunday they come home and play the Pittsburgh Steelers at Franklin Field, and they have 58,000 people.
The Philadelphia Eagles, tied for the lead at the summit of the Eastern Conference, attract the largest home crowd since 1950, as 58,324 pack Franklin Field for their key battle with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The day of the game, the line to buy tickets literally wrapped around Franklin Field, went all the way down 33rd Street to Market Street. And from that point forward, you couldn't buy an Eagles ticket. They were an unstoppable force.
The the Eagles won a franchise record 9 consecutive games despite a defense that ranked 10th in a 12-team league. In Week 5, linebacker Bob Pellegrini was lost for the season. His replacement, 35-year-old offensive center Chuck Bednarik, played both sides of the ball the rest of the season.
In the case of a lot of great athletes, things get exaggerated over time, and myths grow beyond fact. I think that Chuck Bednarik is one of the very, very few people whose accomplishments were, in fact, greater than the myth that surrounded them. People talk about the last of the 60-minute men, but if you actually go back and you think about what he did at the age of 35, for him to play half a season, 58 to 59 minutes a game, and not just be on the field, but making the plays that define the season. The hit on Gifford that saves the game in New York, one of the most legendary shots in history of pro football.
With the Birds trailing late in the fourth quarter at New York, Jimmy Carr scored on a fumble recovery to put the Birds ahead 17-10. It was up to the defense to shut down the Giants' final drive.
Clock is running down. It's about 1.5 minutes to play in the game. Gifford swings out of the backfield, comes down the field, across, down and in. They're dangerous. That's like a Volkswagen going down a one-way street, and a Mack truck is coming the opposite way. When the ball flew in the air, Chuck Weber fell on it. I had no idea where Frank Gifford was, and then when I saw him recover the ball and I turned around, and then simultaneously I was with a gesture like this, standing over him, and I said these exact words, "This effing game is over." And it would appear by the picture that I'm gloating over him. I wasn't gloating over him. I had no idea that he was there.
He just leveled Frank. I mean, Frank was level and knocked him cold, of course. And Frank missed a whole year of football the following season. That's how hard he got hit. I thought Bednarik killed him.
They carried Frank off the field on a stretcher, and unknown to us, some fan that day had a heart attack in the stands. The man had unfortunately died in our locker room, and they were taking him out with a sheet over his face just as we started to walk in, and we all thought that Bednarik had killed Gifford.
In a scheduling oddity, the Eagles played the Giants again the next week at home, and again won on a fourth-quarter comeback.
Makes the catch, and the rapid rookie rockets for the goal line to complete a 51-yard scoring play.
By beating the Cardinals the next week, the Eagles clinched their first Eastern Conference title since the championship season of 1949. On a Monday afternoon, the day after Christmas, the Eagles hosted the NFL championship game at Franklin Field. Their opponent was the Green Bay Packers, coached by Vince Lombardi.
The fabulous Dutchman, Norm Van Brocklin, earned the league's most valuable player award for his role in the Eagles' flight to victory.
In what would be Van Brocklin's final NFL game, the Eagles stayed true to form, getting thoroughly outplayed early on.
You take Van Brocklin, he was 9 for 23 passing. They came in and they out-statisticed us, and again, this little lucky 1960 championship with nothing, just in the right places at the right time.
Tommy McDonald got the Eagles on the board in the second quarter.
Scored a lot of touchdowns in the pros, but I think that will be the one that really will stick with me because I got it in there. I didn't let them down.
Ted Dean's 5-yard touchdown run gave the Eagles a 17-13 lead with just over 5 minutes to play. But a young Bart Starr began to drive Green Bay down the field. With 8 seconds left, the Packers stood on the Eagles' 22-yard line.
wish you could be here to see 67,000 people standing. What an electrifying finish to a great season and a great game. Stars up over the ball. This will be it. Stars back to throw. He takes time. He throws over the middle.
I had him right here in my sight, and I made sure I knocked him down to the ground, and there was still about 9 seconds to go, and I could see the clock up there going 8, 7. He's squirming to get the heck off of it. When I saw 0, I looked down at him. I said, "You can get up now, just like you get. This effing game is over.
The game's over. The game's over. The Eagles are the champions of the world. Listen."
It was like something out of mythology that Bednarik not just would have played 59 minutes of that game at his age as the oldest man on the field, but that he would be the one standing there making the tackle that ended it. That's Roy Hobbs stuff right there.
They've been called a team with nothing but a title, but they captured more than that day. From Fishtown to Kensington to the main line, the 1960 Eagles won over the hearts of Philadelphia with a magical season. It would be the only postseason loss Vince Lombardi would ever suffer, and the last pro football championship the city of Philadelphia has seen.
It was just a strange, unique group of guys that suddenly decided that the most important thing in the world to them was to win the championship. This 1960 team developed that intangible, whatever it is. Some people called it spirit, some people called it camaraderie, and that's why we won.
We really got like family, you know. And I think that's the reason we won, is because we were like family.
Following their championship celebration in 1960, head coach Buck Shaw stepped down. Norm Van Brocklin, who came to Philly on a handshake deal that he would eventually become the Eagles' head coach, fully expected to get the job. It didn't happen.
Because he was not an easy guy to get along with and very outspoken about some of the backward ways of the front office, etc. He was rightly perceived by the front office as a threat, and they reneged on their promise.
Van Brocklin left Philadelphia to become head coach of the expansion Vikings, leaving the Eagles with a new quarterback, Sonny Jurgensen.
Jurgensen has the unenviable task of filling the great Norm Van Brocklin shoes.
And a new coach, Nick Skorich.
Nick Skorich, former Eagle line coach, is making his debut as head coach of the powerful world champions. Here's the opening kickoff of the season with Luke
Without
Wilson
Shaw or Van Brocklin, the Eagles still challenged for the conference title in 1961.
Jimmy Brown takes it out.
Thanks to the emergence of new stars like return man Timmy Brown.
Browns skips away from a tackler at the 30, gets a diving block from Dick Lucas at the 50, and sprints all the way for a 105-yard touchdown.
But after a 3-win season in 62 and a 2-win season in 63, Skorich was out. In was Joe Kuharich, who traded away popular veterans like Tommy McDonald and Sonny Jurgensen. Kuharich had a blustery style that wasn't always easy to understand.
It's a face mask there. You gotta look at those things. Watch your feet, Peters! Nelson! All the preaching we do on that play. All the preaching you do on that play, they don't even look for it. If he just run right. Hey, pick up right there! Pick up! You picked him up!
He was nervous. He had a lot of little idiosyncrasies, little nervous habits. Every time wouldn't go wrong, he'd go for a water bucket.
Boy, the gears in that guy's mind didn't mesh for a long time, I'll tell you that.
He would head for the water bucket, take a sip of water, throw the dipper back in the water bucket. And even one time, King Hill and I were sitting on the bench, and we said, wonder what he would do. I said, if we hid the water bucket, which we did. And of course, after about the third play that didn't go right, Joe headed for the water bucket. He couldn't find it, and he panicked. Because that was his routine. He had to do it, and he didn't appreciate it.
Never should happen. Never should happen.
If Kuharich was sometimes difficult to understand, the fans were not. They got their message across in simple, unmistakable phrases.
They started a campaign called Joe Must Go. Fans came to the games wearing buttons that said Joe Must Go. A group of fans paid for a plane to fly over the stadium trailing a banner that said Joe must go. Hugh Herrick brought that feeling out in the fan base of Philadelphia.
The Eagles had only one winning season in Hugh Herrick's 5 years as coach, and by 1968 were so bad that fans did the unthinkable.
I was there the day the fans threw snowballs at Santa Claus. The halftime producer reached into the stands and found a grizzled, bedraggled, rumpled senior citizen who always came to the last home game before the holiday dressed as Santa Claus.
And he had a bad 5 o'clock shadow under his white beard that kept falling off as the wind would blow. I think that poor guy that was playing Santa Claus that day probably took the heat for the whole season, and deserved it.
68 was a very unhappy year. The Eagles lost their first 11 games, and the fans were consoling themselves with the fact that they thought that, well, okay, we're the worst team in football, but at least we'll get the draft rights to O.J. Simpson. And then just at the point when the fans were beginning to anticipate, the Eagles won 2 games, and so they dropped to 3rd in the draft, and instead of getting O.J. Simpson, they got Leroy Keys.
Veterans Stadium. The glistening new home of the Eagles was an optimistic sight for Philadelphia fans as 1971 began.
Not even a change of address could stop the Eagles' free fall or slow their coaching carousel.
When all seemed lost, a change was made. A sturdy new pair of legs carried Eagle fortunes. Ed Khayat, who combined a policy of strength through discipline.
In 2 seasons under Ed Khayat, the Eagles went 8-15-2, leading to yet another change.
Mike McCormick came to Philadelphia determined to patch up the festering wounds of past seasons.
Although initially surrounded by enthusiasm, Mike McCormick's reign seemed doomed from the start.
It was a forlorn beginning to the season, as all the Eagles' hard-learned skills fizzled into fumbles, and the game blew up in their faces.
Despite the best efforts of players like Roman Gabriel and Charlie Young, McCormick's 3-year tenure failed to produce a winning season.
The shadows grew longer, and so did the losing streak with their 6th straight loss at Washington. The dreams that danced in the August heat at Widener flickered and died in winter as all hope for a championship were finally and cruelly crushed.
By the time Dick Vermeil was hired and came here in 1976, the fans of this city were starved for a winner. They really, they needed something. They needed some hope. They needed something that suggested that there was a better tomorrow.
And now it gives me great pleasure to present the new coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
And Vermeil represented that to the fans and to the city. He was a young, energetic guy who had no connection to the team or the losing or the past. He didn't know about any of that. He didn't care about any of that.
A team with real character can beat people. With a team with better talent, that the game doesn't mean as much to. We're not going to go out and get a lot of great players all of a sudden. We've got to make the people we have better. And that starts with the mind. That's where it starts. You're only as good as you think you are.
Damn it! Stupid. Damn field goal. I could kick it that far.
After a decade of discontent, Leonard Toews was determined to find a coach who could rebuild his floundering franchise. In 1976, Toe set his sights on Dick Vermeil, who had just led UCLA to victory in the Rose Bowl.
There it is.
I watched him walk off the field when he won the Rose Bowl game, and he looked like a guy who had it.
Vermeil and his coaching staff. What a job they've done.
So we went down to California. I stayed at a hotel right near where his offices were.
The phone rings and it's Leonard Toews, and at first I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't. He was serious, and I told him I wasn't interested.
I said, well, that guy, he's not even interested. Now, how smart can he be? Boom. And then the phone rang.
It was Dick Vermeil. Mr. Toews, can I come over to see you? He had changed his mind in seconds.
And so we talked about it for about 3 days, I guess it was, and I ended up taking the job.
There were many quality people who sought the head coaching job of the Eagles, but no one impressed us as much as Dick Vermeil.
Vermeil wasted little time in making a first impression with the Eagles.
All right, get him moving, get him moving. Charge that hill.
Our first practice was July 4th, 1976, and Dick was upset because the airplanes were going over, and I said, well, it's the 200th anniversary of the country, you know, the Queen of England, the mayor's downtown, and we can't stop the Blue Angels or whoever was flying by Widener.
Dick said, I don't give a damn what they're doing out there. Carl, you go out and quiet them down. We don't care what day of the month, year, or century it is.
I didn't even really think about it. I just thought it was a day to start football.
Get to him, Leroy. You're going to have to be quicker than that. That's not quick enough.
Our training camps were grueling. I'm telling you, when you talk about 7 weeks of two-a-days.
It was like the Bataan Death March. There was no beginning, there was no end. It was like just being in a time warp.
Looks good.
Whether it was a rookie or a 15-year vet, you could just sit down at a training table, lean over and say, isn't this guy's killing me? Yeah, me too. You know, you'd sort of go on all the things he was doing to you.
Tempo's starting to sag. Some people starting to feel sorry for themselves a little bit out here. And I told you, no coaches are going to feel sorry for you.
I went in there one time and I said, Dick, I said, I can't handle this. I mean, we're killing each other in practice. And he said, I understand. He said, but I'm looking for the last 5 players on this team. And I walked down and he's killing the first 40 to find the last 5. It didn't make sense. But now, looking back, as I run a business, you always have to make sure the weakest link is strong. And that's what he was doing.
The Eagles won 4 games in Vermeil's first season and 5 games the next. Throughout the painful rebuilding process, Vermeil stuck to his game plan.
And most people don't know how well they can do something until they really test themselves. And if you work real hard and invest a lot of hours in getting better, and you're an unselfish person and you do what you're asked to do as hard as you can do it every day on the practice field, well, Sunday it becomes just part of your personality.
The Eagles traded for a young quarterback named Ron Jaworski and rebuilt around players like wide receiver Harold Carmichael and running back Wilbert Montgomery, an unheralded 6th-round pick from Abilene Christian. The team took on the hard-driving personality of its coach, and in 1978, one play finally changed their fortune.
Under 30 seconds left in the game. From here on in, Pizarczyk can just fall on the football, and there is nothing the Eagles can do. And Pizarczyk fumbles the football. It's picked up by Herman Edwards. 15, 10, 5, touchdown Eagles! I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I mean, Herman Edwards is running towards me, and it's like slow motion. My mind couldn't grasp it. Merle's saying, I don't believe it, I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I'm standing beside Berge, who starts hitting me on the chest. It was like a rugby match, a scrum. Everybody's piled all over each other. That was the miracle.
I think the thing that made it even more dramatic was the fact that that play really kind of jump-started our organization as a football team, and from there felt that, hey, you know what? We can win some games at the end, and we can make some plays.
Talk about miracles, folks. I do not believe this one, but it has happened.
Now, the confidence is we'll go in a game, and no matter what happens, we can somehow pull it out.
And I remember the 78 season, and our goal was just to be a winner, just to be a winner.
Thinking about being a winner. Being a winner. Just be a winner.
Well, guys, 12 years. 12 years are going by since the Eagles have been a winner. We're going to come out winners today. You've worked like winners. You've played like winners. Sure, we've won a couple we should have lost. But I'll tell you something else. We've lost a few we should have won. We're right where we ought to be, playing for the first winning season since 1966. Hey, God love all of you.
Hey, all right. First and goal for the Eagles. They're in the Giants' 7th. To Montgomery, up the middle. Touchdown, Eagles.
Let's get heat on that guy now, huh? Let's get heat on that guy.
Clark to put a slant in. Intercepted. Intercepted by Frank Lamont.
Finally, you reached the pinnacle of what you set out for, and to be a damn winner, and it happened.
And that could seal it up.
Eagles are winners, Ronnie. The Eagles are winners.
My chest was bursting out, and my eyes were welled up, and I felt so darn good that we had accomplished it.
We're winners, man! We're winners!
In just 3 seasons, Dick Vermeil had turned Leonard Toews' Eagles into a playoff team.
That one's for you. That's for you.
All right, guys. Defensive team is up, guys. The big thing is get out there right off on that first series and let them know who you are and why we're here today, to get after their ass. Let's go. Come on.
By 1979, confidence levels were soaring, and the Eagles were no longer pushovers. Dick Vermeil's ordinary team was playing at an extraordinary level. A blend of young enthusiasm and veteran savvy tipped the momentum in the Eagles' favor. The catalyst was running back Wilbur Montgomery, who in 1979 set a team record with 1,512 rushing yards. While Montgomery set a team record, Harold Carmichael set an NFL record by catching at least one pass in 106 consecutive games. It was now time to focus on Dick Vermeil's ultimate goal, defeating the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys were the quintessential organization. They were not just Big Blue. They were the guys dominating football in our division. So he knew the road to the Super Bowl, you had to knock them off.
To me, I use them as a tool to hate, a team to hate, to develop the hatred for your enemy, and also a team to respect, because they were doing it so well and so much better than everybody else.
And in 1979, when they went down to Dallas, they were coming off a 3-game losing streak. And the confidence of the team was definitely shaken. And the night before the game in Dallas, they had a team meeting at the hotel. And Dick said, "What's it going to take to beat the Dallas Cowboys? Just another 24 hours. And he turned and he walked out of the room. But what he had said to them was, "You're good enough. Go seize it."
4th down and a yard for the Eagles. Everybody in play as Jaworski spins and goes with play action. He's looking for Carmichael. He takes it at the 5. He's in for a touchdown. Cody hits it. It is going. It is going. It is going. It is good. It is good. That is a new Eagles record of 59-yard field goal by Tony Franklin. Jaworski spins. Gives off to Montgomery. First down to the 30. 25-20. 15-10. Touchdown, Wilbur Montgomery. And that's going to lock it up.
I really do think it all sort of came together for that team that night. To have gone into Dallas on a Monday night game and beaten the Cowboys in Texas Stadium was an enormous step forward for this team, and really convinced them, all of them, that they had what it took to be a champion.
Hosting their first playoff game at Veterans Stadium, the Eagles recorded their first playoff victory in 19 years.
Jaworski is back. Fires to Campfield, complete at the 40, 45, midfield, 45-40, 45-30, 45-10. In goes Billy Campfield for the touchdown!
And although they lost the following week at Tampa, Dick Vermeil's Eagles were ready to become champions. "1980 marked a special time in Philadelphia sports history. The Sixers and Flyers were in the finals, and the Phillies had just won their first World Series.
The Phillies are world champions! The Phillies are world champions of baseball!
As for the Eagles, Dick Vermeil's 5-year plan was right on schedule.
Fly, Eagles, fly!
The season began with flair as the Eagles won 11 of their first 12 games. They did it with a punishing blue-collar offense and a defense that allowed the fewest points in the league. Quarterback Ron Jaworski played the best football of his career and led the NFC in passing. And although Philadelphia lost its season finale against the Cowboys, a tiebreaker awarded the Eagles their first division title since 1960.
First and goal. It's a handoff to Montgomery. Cuts inside in for a touchdown. And that's going to seal up the title.
To be able to call Sizemore a champion. To be able to call Bill Berge a champion.
All right.
Randy Logan.
All right.
John Bunning. The guys that have been here all 5 years. Carl Hairston. This guy right behind me. Guy Morris. To be able to call you guys a champion, it's the greatest thrill I've ever had in coaching. And thank you for what you've done for me.
In the opening round of the playoffs, underdog Minnesota took a surprising 14-0 lead, and tempers began to boil.
I'll tell you what you better do. I can watch you. You walk around out there with your finger up your and you ain't hitting a damn soul. The name of the game, man, is hit. It's pursuing. It's working. We're not doing either. I'll tell you what. They go down here and the score. It's your job to win it. And I want to see you do it.
The Eagles got the message and responded by forcing 8 Viking turnovers while scoring 31 points. Following the victory, Philadelphia issued a challenge.
We want Dallas! Dallas! We hate you! Dallas! Right here at the vet!
Ever since Dick Vermeil became the coach, he had been building towards beating the Dallas Cowboys. And now here you were, playing for the championship against the team you had been thinking about and pointing towards all these years.
Years back, when we were struggling to win 5 and 6 and 7 games, a lot of people used to take the Eagles for granted. A lot of guys have heard me say, never allow anybody to take you for granted. If the Dallas Cowboys are going to take us for granted, we'll whip their ass.
You just felt that they had come so far and they had overcome so much, and there was no way they were going to lose that game.
On their second play from scrimmage, the Eagles took control of the game.
Second down and 10. The Cowboys with 6 defensive backs. Jaworski gives off inside, running for Montgomery on the right side.
I still remember now thinking, this game is over. They have another 3 quarters and most of the first quarter still to play, but this game is over. That was just an emphatic statement, and you could see that the Cowboys slumped, and they never were able to recover from that.
The success of the Eagles throughout the season stemmed from a strong defense and a workmanlike running game. Against the Cowboys, that formula worked to perfection.
A long yard, Dick. Dick? Huh? About 1 yard. All right, do swing, 15 base. Leave Wilbert in there. Dick? Yeah. Got 2 downs here probably to make it. Yeah.
Carmichael splits wide to the near side. It's a pitch to Montgomery. Off right tackle. 25-30. 35-40. 45 midfield. Montgomery to the 45. To the 40. To the 35. I drive down the Cowboys. 25-yard line. Wilbert Montgomery having his day of days.
Dick, yeah, great call. Thank you. Beautiful. All right, slot split. I want 47 slant. This should be a touchdown right here, Dick. Yeah. Should be a score.
Jaworski onto the lane of Leroy Harris up the middle across the line. Touchdown Eagles. Leroy Harris.
We going to New Orleans.
I'll tell you where you're going. You're going to Super Bowl. He's going to Super Bowls where he's going.
Let's back up.
After 20 years of frustration, the Philadelphia Eagles had finally earned the right to be called a champion. On pro football's biggest Sunday, the Eagles' dreams of a world championship crumbled in Super Bowl 15. The Eagles fell behind the Raiders early and never caught up. No one felt the pain more than Dick Vermeil.
It really didn't hit me about how much it hurt to lose until we were just put the nose down in the airplane to land coming home the next day. When the nose started down, I started down. Boy, and by the time we hit the ground, I was low as I have ever been. I was in tears. I was an emotional wreck.
The following season, the Eagles lost sight of another NFC title and were upset by the visiting Giants in the opening round of the playoffs. The 1982 players' strike, which erased half of the season, only deepened Vermeil's depression. The players eventually returned, but for the Eagles, the opportunity to win a championship had slipped away. And for Dick Vermeil, the job that once challenged him now began to consume him.
Coach Vermeil was working 18 hours a day and going to bed to a projector and waking up to a projector.
And I remember a quote that Monsignor Sharkey used, who Dick really loved. It was before a Giants game. We used to have Mass in the hotel, and he said, the glory of God is man fully alive. Well, Dick was fully alive, but he was so tied up in trying to do more than he could physically and mentally and even probably spiritually do.
After succumbing to emotional breakdown, Dick Vermeil decided to step aside.
Right now, I'm going to take my own advice and step down out of coaching. I am emotionally burnt out and therefore feel that I need a break. I hope very much my players can understand where I'm coming from. I love those guys, all the people in the Eagle organization, and it's not an easy thing to do to say goodbye to them.
The downward spiral continued after Vermeil's retirement. The Eagles were losing football games, and the owner was losing his fortune. Brought down by a reported $20 million in gambling debt, Leonard Toews was forced to sell the Eagles in 1985. The team was purchased by Norman Breyman, a Philadelphia native who made a fortune selling luxury cars. Breyman's team was thin on talent, with the exception of wide receiver Mike Quick.
I remember when Mike Quick was drafted, Dick Corey, who was the wide receiver coach, said to me, the word on this Mike Quick is, when he's even, he's leaving. Nobody ever caught Mike Quick from behind. And there were so many highlight film catches that he made. But the one that I will never forget came against the Atlanta Falcons when the Eagles were backed up at their own half-yard line.
The Eagles have the worst possible field position. Jaworski retreats. He's looking. He fires the football. Completes it quick. He's going to go. 25-20, 35-40, midfield, 45-40, 35-40. Mike Quick.
I can still remember him prancing into the end zone. 99 yards. The Eagles win it. And what drama.
Touchdown. The Eagles win. Jaworski the quick. 99 yards. The longest pass play in Eagles history.
In need of a quick fix for his team, Norman Breyman hired Bears defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan in 1986.
When he came to Philadelphia, he came with a pedigree, a guy that had won, a guy that was, again, seen as the architect of this tremendous defense that had just won a Super Bowl. But above and beyond that, he came with a personality that was a great fit for Philadelphia. He was brash.
Hey, 55. Who you think's got this?
He spoke his mind.
I'm going to scream at the All-Pros. I'm going to scream at the rookies.
And that he was going to build a team that was going to be meaner and tougher than any team in football. And that's exactly what the people in Philadelphia have been waiting to hear.
Ryan's blueprint for success began by constructing a prolific defense that instantly won over his loyalty.
They were his guys, and he made them know that they were his guys. But he felt like he was going to build the best defense in football, and he was going to ride that to a Super Bowl. They were going to be the key to this team's success. We're going to win because of you. And the players related to that. And they became fiercely loyal to him.
It's kind of started in the middle with Jerome Brown, who not only could stuff the run and create gridlock at the line of scrimmage, but he could push the pocket back and collapse it around the quarterback. You know, then you had Reggie White, one of the great pass rushers of all time. Seth Joyner was a carnivore at linebacker.
When you look at our defense, we have 11 guys across the board that can make a play, 11 guys across the board that can turn the game.
Their defense was really good at pressuring teams and forcing mistakes and taking the ball away from the other teams.
We always believed in trying to score on defense, you know, and throw that ball around and get it in the end zone.
He's hit. He fumbles the football. The Eagles have it picked up and running in is Seth Joyner in for a touchdown.
They were always either 1 or 2 in the league in sacks, takeaways. They were a fearsome bunch, and there wasn't anybody in the NFL that looked forward to seeing the Eagles on the schedule.
No game epitomized Buddy Ryan's defense more than
the body bag game. We'll just beat you into submission with our defense.
There were 12 or 11 Redskins that were carted off the field. And I can remember doing the show the day after that body bag game. And I never saw anything like it.
He's hit. He fumbles. The Eagles are after it. Simmons has it. At the 10. At the 5. Touchdown.
We got a ball for you. That's a great job.
Philadelphia's answer to the great Houdini was quarterback Randall Cunningham, a one-man show who often left his audience in utter amazement.
Cunningham back again. He's looking. He's going to run. He jumped. He's out. Touchdown!
Randall was the most uniquely exciting. He was the most unpredictable. You never knew what he would do next. I'm not sure Randall ever knew what he would do next. Buddy used to say, go out there and make 6 big plays, and Randall would make 6 huge plays.
Now Cunningham on a broken play is running across the 50, 45, 40, 35, 40, Randall faking, now rolling with the football and being slapped at the 10, but throwing the ball is going for a touchdown. Absolutely unbelievable.
In terms of pure excitement and electricity, he was the ultimate weapon. He could throw it a mile. He could punt if he had to.
Cunningham's got the ball. Puts it high in the air. Look at it carry. What a punt. You talk about a championship kick. I've never seen one that good.
91 yards by Cunningham. Now that's great.
But my number one Randall highlight would be in Buffalo, where he eluded Bruce Smith in the end zone.
He ducks under 3 men.
And rolled to his left and stepped up and threw it to the center of the field.
He's looking. He's rolling. He's heaving it deep downfield for Barnett, who leaps and has it at the 40, at the 35, 30, 25, 20. Barnett's going to score for a 95-yard touchdown to Fred Barnett. I can't believe what a game.
Despite a talented roster, one thing still escaped the Eagles: winning a playoff game. Three straight defeats in the first round, coupled with Ryan's disdainful attitude towards ownership, ultimately led to the coach's dismissal.
I think there was a clash of personalities as much as anything. Norman Brayman was this, as Buddy used to refer to him, the guy in France. Rich guy, collector of fine wines, very cultured, takes pride in all that sort of thing. And then you have Buddy, who's Kentucky horse farmer, who says what's on his mind, who doesn't mind insulting people and ruffling people's feathers. I mean, who refers to their boss as the guy in France? You don't do that if you want to keep your job for a long time. And Buddy always felt that if I win enough, they can't touch me. But ultimately, the boss can always touch you. When they got to the playoffs 3 straight years and never got past the first round, in Brayman's mind, that was reason enough to make a change.
I'm also pleased to announce to you today that the next coach of the Philadelphia Eagles will be Richie Kotite. We've reached agreement with Rich today. Rich will be taking over immediately as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Red, right zip, 83, A shoot. Nobody covered the A.
Before being hired as head coach, Rich Kotite was the Eagles' offensive coordinator and helped Randall Cunningham reach MVP status in 1990.
I'll get him a break off, okay?
But on opening day of 91, the Eagles' fate was already sealed.
First play, second quarter, opening game, Green Bay, Bryce Paup hits Randall Cunningham, down he goes, done for the season. And Stan turned to me in the broadcast booth and said, "There goes the season."
Come on, let's go! Let's go!
Kotite turned to defensive coordinator Bud Carson, who perfected what Buddy Ryan had already built.
That 1991 Philadelphia defense was, of course, one of the greatest defenses in the history of the NFL, and it was just electric to watch. And you could just feel that they were not only not going to allow anybody to gain any yardage on them, they were going to drive them backward.
Comes away from one man, and they get him again! He's setting up, and he's sacked again! They've got him! Aikman looking, he goes again! They get him! He's under a rush, gets away from one man, but back Clyde Simmons, who gets him from behind. They are making mincemeat of the Dallas offensive line. I feel like a fight judge. 7, 8, 9, and out!
In Dallas, the Eagles sacked Troy Aikman 11 times. Later that season, a trip to Houston resulted in a house of pain.
The Eagles were playing Monday night in Houston, and the Eagles' defense then was just obliterating them.
Boone on road, watch and the Eagles bury him!
Bodies were going off right and left. Seth Joyner, in one of the memorable lines of all time, yelled over to the Houston sideline, "Y'all are getting your people killed out here."
Led by Reggie White, the Eagles finished with the league's #1 defense versus the run, pass, and overall, and became only the 5th team in NFL history to accomplish the rare trifecta. That offseason, tragedy struck the Philadelphia Eagles. On June 25, 1992, All-Pro tackle Jerome Brown was killed in a car accident.
He was back home, he was in Florida, he was in the car, and I lost control of the car. And it's just one of those things, one of those messages you get, where the wind and the life goes right out of you. He was the heartbeat of the Eagles, and he was the guy that made it fun to come to practice every day. So that 92 season was dedicated to Jerome.
With Brown as their inspiration, the Eagles accomplished moments of greatness. Against Arizona, the defense turned back the Cardinals on 7 consecutive goal line plays.
What compounded that situation was the offside penalties that we had that gave them extra chances. And I know probably after the 4th or 5th play, I huddled the guys together and I said, look, they're not getting in the end zone.
Here is another 3rd down. Chandler this time gives it off, and they stick Bailey. They stick him. What is this, the 3rd and goal? The handoff, Johnny Bailey, and they stand him up, and he doesn't make it again. He loses. I think he loses 12 inches. Here we go. 4th and goal. Handoff, Johnny Bailey. Does he make it? No! No! The Eagles stop him. The goal line defense rises up and stops him at the 1. A tremendous goal line stand by the Eagles defense.
I think they could have ran the ball 10 times, 15 times. They would have never gotten the end zone running the ball.
The Eagles' history of quick playoff exits seemed to be repeating itself when they went to New Orleans. But in the second half, they caught fire with a bomb that burned the Saints.
He's floating it deep, leaping, and a great touchdown catch by Fred Morgan! Leaping into the end zone and making a circus catch on the far side. The second touchdown reception by Fred Morgan.
Go pick it up here, Kate. Everybody's picking it up now.
Big play for the Eagles defense right here. Shotgun. Here they go. Back goes Hebert. He's hit. He's safety. Safety. And it's going to be a safety, or is it?
Yep, they give it
a safety.
We gotta go score right now, baby.
It's looking good. Back goes Hebert again under a rush. Intercepted. And running in for a touchdown is Eric Allen. And now we'll tell you that this is over. The Eagles have blown the roof off the Superdome. The Eagles have blown the roof off the Superdome.
The following week in Dallas, the Eagles' playoff run came to an end. An even bigger loss came in the offseason when perennial All-Pro Reggie White left Philadelphia to sign with the Green Bay Packers.
Norman Braman, as the owner during the advent of free agency, had refused to play the free agency game. And when really great players became available for free agency, he wouldn't pay the price to keep them. So as a result, some of your really good players, like your Reggie Whites, your Keith Jacksons, Seth Joyners, players like that, just left. And the team that Buddy had built began to fall apart.
And although the Eagles showed flashes of brilliance in 1993, the team's chance for a Super Bowl had already passed.
Allen at the 40, Allen 45-50, 45-40, Eric Allen down the far sideline, steps over a man, he's gonna go! Eric Allen with an absolutely miraculous return.
On April 6, 1994, Jeffrey Lurie bought the Philadelphia Eagles from Norman Braman for nearly $200 million. It was the most money paid for a professional sports franchise at the time.
Philadelphia, I guess, was termed the most hostile city in America the other day. I didn't really take that very negatively.
The 42-year-old Hollywood producer from Massachusetts had a specific plan for building a winner in Philadelphia.
Jeff said, we want to build a team that's going to be good and is going to be good for a long time. And the model he kept referring to was the 49ers.
Lurie hired Ray Rhodes, who earned 5 Super Bowl rings as a 49ers assistant.
It's all about winning. I'm here to produce. I'm here to bring a championship to Philadelphia. That's why I'm here. I didn't come here to be 500. I didn't come here to try to make the playoffs. I came here to win a championship.
Rhodes brought 2 things from San Francisco. 1, the West Coast offense. And 2, fiery free agent Ricky Watters. The former 49ers tailback scored in one of Philly's most memorable victories over Dallas, a game known simply as 4th and 1. With the score tied late in the 4th quarter, the Eagles' defense made a legendary stand.
Eagles could win it if they stop the Cowboys here. They give it to Smith. He doesn't make it. They stop him. The Eagles take over on downs. The Eagles take over on downs. The referees are talking. We've got the problem. We've got the problem. Oh, they're going to call the 2-minute warning. They're going to say it was no play. Eagles stop them once. Can they stop them again?
The Cowboys obviously now have the opportunity to rethink this and decide, yeah, maybe we should punt it away. And Switzer says, no, we'll just go for it again, which further drives home the point, these guys don't respect us.
They give it to Smith and they stop him again! They stop him again! And this time they can't take it away from the Eagles, the same play! This is for the game. Ball is spotted. The kick is away. It's long enough.
They reached the playoffs that first year. Ray had turned around the team and did a tremendous job and took them into a playoff game where they were not favored to win.
In fact, number 75 Lomas Brown had guaranteed a Lions victory.
Nothing more to say. We're going to do our talking on the field today.
Get some respect, man. Time to get some respect. Some respect.
The Eagles got their respect and much, much more.
He lets it go. It's intercepted. And running down with the football for a touchdown is Barry Wilbur.
Philadelphia scored 31 points in the second quarter, including a Hail Mary on the final play of the half.
Back goes Pete. He loads up. Pete is loading it deep down the far side of the field. For a touchdown by Rob Carpenter. I don't believe it. Light it up. Light it up. That is the most points the Eagles have ever scored in a playoff game, and they've done it in the first half.
He guaranteed a win, man. He said it'd be over by the first quarter. He was off by a quarter. It was over by the second quarter.
And today we had to go out and show people that they can't guarantee anything but death and taxes. That's all it's guaranteed.
For guiding the Eagles to an 11-7 record, Rhodes was named NFL Coach of the Year. In 1996, the Eagles donned new uniforms, but kept the same disdain for the Dallas Cowboys. The old rivalry was reaching new heights. Late in a November contest, the game was tied at 21 when Philly's defense stiffened.
They give it to Emmett. Straight to the local line of scrimmage. Pulled out of bounds. Thrown out of bounds by Troy Vincent. Second and goal for two. Again Emmett Smith. And again they stack him up and throw him back and lose a yard. 45 seconds left. Can you stand it? No.
On third and goal, the Eagles' rush pressured Troy Aikman. And James Willis's interception and lateral to Troy Vincent set off one of the wildest finishes in team history.
Coming up with the interception, running along the far sideline, cutting to the center of the field. Eagles have the football. Troy Vincent. Vincent running down the sideline. The Eagles win. The Eagles win. The Eagles win.
That sequence there really becomes the signature moment of that season and really of Ray Rhodes' tenure as the Eagles coach. After that game, there just seemed to be a sort of an internal unraveling of that team, that once it began, there was no reversing the process.
The Eagles lost 27 of their next 40 games. In 1998, they suffered the worst season in franchise history. They finished 3-13, and it was time for a change.
This is as tough as it gets.
In 1999, Andy Reid rolled into town to rebuild a broken-down Eagles team, just as he had restored his father's 1928 Model A.
They tell you to drive it hard, and that's a little bit like a football team. You want to make sure that you put all the pieces together and do it meticulously, and then you want to take it out and let them run it.
The Eagles' 20th head coach ran the team so well that in his first 5 years, he compiled the highest winning percentage in club history. Reid's NFL journey began in Green Bay, where he spent 7 years watching Mike Holmgren's every move, taking notes, and coaching Packers star quarterback Brett Favre. One day after practice, Reid saw Holmgren toss his notebook in the trash. Reid retrieved it, studied it, and added it to the 6-inch thick binder of notes he had compiled during his coaching career.
This was a guy that, okay, he's never been a head coach before, he's never been a coordinator before, but he knows how to do it.
Jeffrey Lurie believed in Reid's plan, which needed a franchise quarterback to succeed. The Eagles held the second overall pick in the '99 NFL Draft, and Philly fans wanted running back Ricky Williams.
We were taking the cue from our mayor at the time, who really wanted Ricky Williams. We jumped on that bandwagon. I'm not giving anybody else blame. We screwed it up.
We had this campaign to draft Ricky, and I think the worst thing I did was one day I gave the Eagles phone number out on WIP, and I think they got a couple of thousand calls that day.
There's a team of green here in full force. Those are the Eagles fans who are making their last pitch for the Eagles to draft Ricky Williams and not quarterback Donovan McNabb.
That's not the biggest lens I've ever seen. I bet you can see my heart bumping out.
With the second pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Donovan McNabb, quarterback, Syracuse University.
Sometimes what your fans want on draft day turns out to be something that down the road they're saying, well, thank God we didn't go that route.
They weren't booing Donovan. They were booing Eagles management for not picking Ricky.
It was more of an instantaneous reaction to the fact that Philadelphia had let the fans down for so many years, making bad draft picks, doing the wrong thing. We weren't prepared for them to do the right thing and for us to be wrong.
Just hours after the draft, Donovan McNabb began studying the Eagles' playbook. After making a few adjustments to his game plan, Reed gave McNabb his first NFL start in Week 10.
398, 399, hand of solid X slant or sluggo. Out. Go. Out. Y corner, stagger, XY hook. Out.
What I'm trying to do is cut back just a bit. That's what I try to do. Okay. I'm going on that theory that he knows, give him the stuff that he knows, we go with it.
McNabb went with it, turning the boos into cheers.
McNabb is coming in at quarterback, and listen to the crowd as they see that number 5.
The rookie coach and his rookie quarterback were making headway. McNabb didn't start a game until Week 10, yet he accounted for 3 of the Eagles' 5 wins that season.
At the 10, at the 5, he is in for the touchdown!
What you've done here has been a real nice turnaround, not in terms of victories, but in terms of quality of play. And I think people that understand football realize.
All right, here we go. Hey, let's see what we got here, 5. Let's see what you can do with this offense right here. Come on, 5. I'll tell you what, that's a nice shot right there. That's a way to go right after it. That's a way to go right after it.
You can liven this thing up.
Here we go.
That's your deal. And I'm up. If I back off, I'm giving it to you. Okay? That's all I'm looking for. But this is your show. How you go, it goes. All the way.
McNabb took the Eagles show on the road to Dallas for the 2000 season opener, where a fierce rivalry became even more heated.
The players were given pickle juice that was supposed to keep them from wilting in the 120-degree temperatures. And to see that game start with an onside kick just set the tone for the season.
Akers approaches the ball, and he goes for an onside kick, and it's recovered by the Eagles. The Eagles shocked everybody.
It's no shock that in 2000, McNabb accounted for almost 75% of the Eagles' offense and was the team's leading rusher. The Eagles won 10 of their final 13 games. Many expected them to improve in McNabb's first full season, but few thought they would dive straight into the playoffs. That's exactly what they did. Over 20,000 fans braved the bitter cold to purchase tickets for the Eagles' first postseason appearance in 5 years.
That was, to this day, the loudest I have ever heard an Eagles crowd. They just blew the lights out of that stadium. I mean, you could just feel that place vibrate.
Hugh Douglas gave fans more to cheer about.
The ball goes back to King. Oh, he's hit! Football is loose! Fight for the ball, the Eagles have it!
The 21-3 victory capped the greatest single-season turnaround in franchise history. The 2000 Eagles won 12 games and captured the hearts of their fans, while Andy Reid captured Coach of the Year honors. The Eagles entered the 2001 season with high expectations. Goal number 1, breaking a 9-game losing streak to the Giants. Trailing 9-3 late in the fourth quarter, Donovan McNabb ended the Giant jinx.
The 9-game losing streak against the New York Giants is over.
They have finally slayed the dragon.
I think that was the turning point for the offense, especially because that's when Donovan really came into his own and he really matured as a quarterback.
To clinch their first division title in more than a decade, the Eagles once again defeated the Giants with a fourth quarter comeback.
He is going deep down the far side. James Ross! The bomb!
Is this the football game of the year for the Eagles? This game, this season, is going to rest on the toe of David Akers. Ball is spotted. The kick is away. It's not the distance. It is gone! And the Eagles win. They take your breath away, but they win the game.
Hey, I just want to know who the NFC's champs are.
After knocking Tampa Bay out of the playoffs for the second straight season, the Eagles traveled to McNabb's hometown. In the Windy City, Eagles offense blew away another top defense.
McNabb goes back again. He's looking. He backs up. He's still rolling. He's looking. Fires for the end zone. Caught for a touchdown.
Bring it up in here tight. Let's go.
Hey, everybody's watching that ball, huh? Everybody's watching that ball. Let's get a body on a body. Watch the crazy stuff.
Christ, go.
Let's kick their ass.
Here we go.
Playing in their first NFC title game since 1981, the Eagles were cast as underdogs, but played like champions.
Eagles certainly showing up for this game. Certainly playing a bold football game. They are really playing with all of their hearts. They are giving this everything they have.
A Super Bowl berth was one big play away.
He steps up, he fires, and it is intercepted by the Rams.
Watching someone else running around and having a good time, that's what hurts really. But this is something we can feed off of going into the following year.
In 2002, the Eagles defense fed off the versatility of safety Brian Dawkins, who became the first player in NFL history to intercept a pass, record a sack, recover a fumble, and catch a touchdown all in the same game.
It's a fake, and it goes on the pitch. Running with the football wide open, getting a block is Brian Dawkins. Dawkins across the 15, the 10, the 5, touchdown! It was a fake all the way.
The Eagles were coasting at 6-3 until the third play of Week 10.
And he's going to stop and be hit and brought down and sacked. And McNabb is hurt.
McNabb got twisted like a pretzel and he was almost doubled over backwards. And you can see the right knee being twisted.
None of us knew how bad the injury was when it first happened. We just thought he twisted his ankle. When we found out afterwards that he had actually broken the bone, it was shocking because there aren't that many games in the season when quarterbacks in this league throw 4 touchdown passes under any circumstances. But to throw 4 touchdown passes playing on a broken leg is astonishing.
The following week, backup quarterback Coy Detmer shredded the 49ers before suffering an arm injury.
Big problem. Detmer's hurt. Detmer is seriously hurt.
Third stringer A.J. Feely took over. And despite the loss of McNabb, the Eagles won 5 of their final 6 games to claim their second consecutive division title. Once again, Andy Reid was named Coach of the Year.
You just made history, huh? Just made history. Give yourself a little hand. Give yourself a little hand.
The 2002 divisional playoff was also a welcome back party for Donovan McNabb. Meanwhile, Jim Johnson's defense greeted Falcons quarterback Michael Vick with open arms.
Back goes Vick, gives ground. He is firing. It's intercepted. It's intercepted by Bobby Taylor. Down the right side to the 10. Bobby Taylor for the touchdown. And the Eagles, for the second year in a row, have advanced to the NFC Championship.
But this was no ordinary game. Win or lose, it would be the Eagles' final game at Veterans Stadium. For the second straight year, their victory cigars remained unlit, their Super Bowl dreams unfulfilled.
Hush goes over the entire stadium.
That hurt. That hurt tremendously. That's one of the vet was so quiet after that game. Usually after a loss, the fans will boo us and tell us we suck or something. Nothing. It was nothing said. That's how quiet it was.
In a lot of ways, I don't know if the people here have recovered from it yet. I think that people are still sort of in mourning about that opportunity that got away.
After 31 years, it was time to say farewell to the vet and hello to the Link. In a Monday night unveiling of their new stadium, the team from the city known for its fighting spirit resurrected a South Philly icon.
Sylvester Stallone, Rocky.
You know, when you think Philadelphia, you have to think Rocky. What an appropriate time to bring out Stallone.
After a rocky 2 and 3 start, Andy Reid made a few adjustments, and Brian Westbrook made a play that saved the season.
He gets it away. It's a wobble. Bounces across the 20. Westbrook takes it. Looks for running room. Up to the 25, the 30, to the 35-40, 45 midfield, 45-40, 35-30. Brian Westbrook! He's going! He's gone! Touchdown! Brian Westbrook! 84 yards! I don't believe it!
The Eagles won 9 straight games and entered the playoffs for the 4th consecutive year. Standing in Andy Reid's way was his former pupil, Brett Favre.
Eagles trailing by a touchdown.
Reid's new student proved up to the task.
McNabb looks right. He pumps. He looks. He is starting to dash, and he is screened in and still rolling. He's looking, fires, and it is complete for a touchdown just inside the pylon to Todd Hickman.
To keep their hopes alive, the Eagles needed a miraculous play.
Cross your fingers, Eagles fans. Hold your breath. This is 4th and 26. With 1:12 remaining, the Eagles' season may very well hinge on this very next play.
There's no way in the world that we have any plays in our playbook for 4th and 26.
Andy Reid's playbook was thicker than anyone expected.
He's looking. He is firing, and it is caught by Freddie Mitchell. He does have a first down. Freddie Mitchell made the biggest play of this game so far.
David Akers made a clutch kick to send the game into overtime.
We are tied at 17. Barr is firing deep. Brian Dawkins intercepted. The ball is spotted. The kick is away. It's good! And the Eagles advance to the NFC Championship game.
Hey! No idea how you do it. But I know this, your heart's as big as my waist.
But another big season ended with another big heartbreak.
McNabb is tripped up and down he goes across the 30. He is shaken up. Donovan must really be hurting. For the 3rd year in a row, the Eagles reaching the conference championship game and going no further.
Though it hurt to once again fall short of football's ultimate game, the Eagles and the city of Philadelphia will bounce back. They always have. Since 1933, every player who donned a green jersey and every fan who cheered for the team share a unique heritage. Theirs is a tradition that will endure for as long as the game is played.
Philadelphia is a great sports city and has a great sports history in all sports. And the people in this town are tremendously supportive.
But I think this is above and beyond all else. I think it's a football town. I think the people in the city love football more than any other game. I think it's part of almost a birthright of a Philadelphian. And when you see the people that are going to the games at the Link now and supporting the Eagles now, there's no bandwagon element to the fan support in this city.
Listen to the crowd, they are roaring.
Their fathers were at Veterans Stadium in January 1981 on that bitter cold day when the Eagles beat the Cowboys. And their grandfathers were at Franklin Field in 1960 when the Eagles beat the Packers for the NFL championship. And their great-grandfathers were in the snow in 1948 at Connie Mack Stadium when the Eagles beat the Chicago Cardinals. I mean, the Eagles are precious to the people in this town. They're a family heirloom that's handed down from generation to generation. That's why the people stay with them year after year, through the bad times, through the losing seasons. I mean, for the people in this town to jump on and off a bandwagon, as they say, or they do in some other cities, and abandon a team when it loses, it's not going to happen in this town. That would be like taking your family album and putting it out at the curb for the trash man. I mean, because the Eagles are part of your family. They're part of who you are. And that's why I think this is the #1 football town, because it's been a long time since this team won a championship, and yet the fans every year have the hope that this is going to be the year, and they show up year after year waiting for it to happen. That's the definition of loving football, and that's the definition of loving a football team.
This NFL Films production has been brought to you by the National Football League. The NFL is